Here's why you shouldn't believe Minister O'Callaghan is on our side when he says that there's too much immigration and tells you that 80% of asylum applications are rejected. The public are at risk, and it is the fault of the government. People, both Irish and migrant, are unsafe at their front doors, in their homes, in their schools, in their cars, on the streets, at parades and religious festivals. Daytime, nighttime, anytime, any place, anywhere, we are all unsafe. And even if nothing ever happens to most of us, it matters little, because our high trust, low risk society is gone, our peace of mind is gone, and Minister Jim O'Callaghan is prepared to keep taking that from you. He wants you to think he's going to address the obvious immigration problem and the obvious crime problem, but the fact is, he will not link the two, and this tells you all you need to know about Minister O'Callaghan's integrity. But just in case I've not convinced you, I'll state the rest of my case. Why is Jim O'Callaghan not telling us that his close Fianna Fáil colleague has financially benefited from asylum cases? The fact that he has omitted this information shows us that the minister is treating the public as though they are not the sharpest tools in the box. He also shows that he thinks this when he engages in stalling and appeasing strategic lies and offering blunt instruments on tackling knife crime and immigration. Jim O'Callaghan, the government and the media tell you 80% of asylum claims are rejected. What they don't want to tell you is that the vast majority of these people are allowed to stay regardless, and this will not change. The minister's promises to cut back on immigration and the assertion that most claims are rejected anyway is a direct attempt to mislead. Rejected asylum seekers enter into appeal after appeal after appeal. These cases take years to exhaust. They're helped by taxpayer-funded NGOs. Failed asylum seekers are given legal assistance, and legal professionals on both sides make a serious living from the long and drawn-out process involved. Fianna Fáil's Barry Andrews' wife has made at least $1 million from asylum cases. Andrews is a former Fianna Fáil minister and is now a Fianna Fáil MEP. Andrews' wife Sinead McGrath has been listed as among the top earners in asylum cases. It is absolutely fair to say Andrews financially benefits from this, given that he is her husband. Is this not a conflict of interest for Fianna Fáil? Such appeals processes take years, as I said, and as such, by the end of it, the applicant is usually said to have laid down roots here or has ties here, and so they are most often allowed to stay. If you don't believe me, have a look at the deportation figures and see if the so-called 80% of failed applicants have been removed from the country. Last year, Andrews complained that single male asylum seekers should not be treated any different to women, children or families, and said it was dangerous and toxic to suggest a link between asylum seekers and crime. When it came to the Migration Pact, which will see more asylum seekers arrive, he voted in favour, despite that he rather unconvincingly says he wrestled with his conscience. In 2023, Andrews was invited by the Journal to educate the public on what he claims are repeated falsehoods regarding immigration in Ireland. That in and of itself seems like another conflict. A so-called impartial media outlet platforming a politician who is a member of the party that is part of the incumbent government seems more than a little unethical, as does not declaring Andrews' conflict of interest. In that article, Andrews declared a number of falsehoods, such as the claim that the presence of NGO boats in the Mediterranean does not encourage ruthless people smugglers and does not contribute to causing the deaths of asylum seekers, including children. Of course, Minister Jim O'Callaghan is aware of all of what I have just stated and how the system operates. After all, he holds a degree in law and advised Fianna Fáil on law from 2011 to 2016. He is aware that we are all being lied to and screwed over, and he is part of the problem here. The new minister is not going to be part of the solution. Make no mistake, we are all being treated as idiots. They are trying to shush you because they know you see the surprisingly frequent random stabbings, the random rapes, the random attempted child abductions, and the St. Patrick's Day terror threat. They are afraid of your reaction. They do not care about your safety. They care about theirs and their gravy train. Last week we had, in one incident, 3 random stabbings on the doorsteps of the victims' own homes in Dublin, which, by the way, would have been a lot worse if it took place in rural Ireland. The only reason the response was so fast was because Garda HQ was less than 5 minutes away. Elsewhere in Cork, a man randomly broke into a woman's home and stabbed her. She fled from her home with her child in her arms. A woman was randomly seriously assaulted while walking her dog in Galway. A man in Limerick was randomly stabbed 8 times while his assailant chanted in Arabic. 2 men were randomly stabbed outside a rap club, and 1 died. There are questions about the identity of one of the victims, and the stabber himself was out on bail for another knife crime. It was also announced a man is due to stand trial for randomly raping a child at a disused nightclub. And a radicalised teen pleaded guilty to randomly stabbing a priest at Renmore Barracks. He stabbed him because he objected to peacekeepers being in Mali, Africa. A man was sentenced for randomly slicing a woman's face open outside her own front door. And this week, a man has pleaded guilty to a random child abduction of a 5-year-old, and 2 men are due to stand trial for the murder of a Canadian tourist. And it's only Monday. All these cases have one common denominator, and it's not that any of these attacks were remotely random. And the government know that we are noticing. They also know that statistically 90% of people never read more than 10% of an article. So that's why you are being offered plumosing headlines that paint a picture that the Minister for Justice has your back. He gets you. He gets your concerns. Jim will fix it. That's the propaganda game here. The first part, i.e. the headlines, gives you a misleading statement such as Minister says too many people coming to Ireland, or 80% of asylum applications are rejected. But when you read what's really being said, you will find that no one ever actually really gets deported, including Brazilian mass stabbers. If you read everything the Minister said over the past few days, you will see he does not commit to reducing immigration numbers. He says that they will only take genuine applicants from now on, whatever that means, hence no actual reduction in numbers. And are they going to reject illegal immigrants who destroy their passports? No. Did the Minister mention they do 0 background checks? No. Surely any honest conversation on immigration and crime would include that bit of information. Has O'Callaghan acknowledged all the migrant crime? No. Did he say a whole load of laughable nothing on knife crime? Yes. He just stated the obvious over and over, saying, carrying a knife is a crime. Yes, we know that, but what will it do to repeat that like a broken record? He also said carrying knives won't be tolerated in a pointless scolding and chastising exercise as though dealing with bold school children. That's going to keep us safe, Minister. Well done. No doubt all the would-be random stabbers are quaking in their boots right now. What would actually keep us safe is if the government had abided by the very laws of this land themselves in the first instance, by not allowing anyone in here who is destroying documents to conceal their identity and background. Not that anyone is checking who they are in any case. In my opinion, everything that's happening is deliberate. Otherwise, they would just stop all this madness, and they wouldn't have ever allowed it to happen in the first place. So I ask you, don't be fooled by Jim O'Callaghan. Jim will fix nothing. And when St. Patrick's Day rolls around this year, remember who you have to thank for keeping your children indoors, for fear that they will be targeted as part of what we now know to be a very legitimate terror threat, one which even the Minister himself acknowledges.